and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1848A, and today's date is April 22nd, 2019, and the title of the episode is The Central Banks Have Been Outed, the Secret Has Been Revealed. Now, I want to talk about Trump and how he's draining the swamp. It's taken 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants for Donald Trump to announce the attempt to tie him to Russia interference in the election campaign had failed. He just keeps rolling with the punches. If you're a fan of the president and you want to show your support, you might want to celebrate the news with one of these solid silver or pure gold President Trump Freedom Coins. Go to TrumpCoin2020.com and also make sure to use the code X22 to save $5 off per silver coin, and use the code X22 with gold at the end to save $100 off the gold coin. To get these coins, don't forget to click the link below and use the code X22. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we know that deep state, the central bankers, they were trying to do one of two things. One, they were trying to bring illegals into this country to increase the population of this country. And there were many different agendas associated with this. And they were trying to do the same thing throughout Europe. Why? Because the economy needs the population to grow. The other thing they were trying to do, if that didn't work, they were trying to create some type of an event which would actually lead to a war, which would decrease the population, which would then allow it to grow once again. Think about this for a second. The central bank system needs the population to continually grow. Otherwise, it stalls. Otherwise, the debt, well, it cannot be sustained. The entire system, and I'm talking about the central bank system, it's dependent on a population that is continually growing at a certain pace. And when a central bank system doesn't have this ingredient, the system implodes because it cannot operate. And this is the problem with the central bank system. And Steven Chu, a Nobel laureate, outed the central bank and reveals the secret, which we're going to be getting into in just a moment. But first, let's start looking at the economy here. And we know that this economy is being propped up by Trump and the patriots. We know that he needs to do this to put everything in place, because this entire economic system is going to look very different after the entire system comes down and a new one is put into its place. We're not going to have the Federal Reserve note. It's not going to be a petrodollar. Everything's not going to be based on oil. Trade is not going to be based on oil. And the system is not going to be run as a private Western central bank system. But when you look at the economy, you can see their system, and I'm talking about the central bank system, it is imploding right in front of our eyes. And Trump is using all their tools, their manipulation, to keep the system alive. If you look at housing once again, remember, he cannot allow housing to collapse, because if he lets housing go, it goes into many other industries. And the people who own their homes, well, they don't feel confident in the economic system, because as the housing market comes down, all the houses depreciate. People lose their investments. He cannot allow this to happen. And since the Fed right now, under the Patriot control, they have kept the rates stable in 2019. But with the housing market declining as quickly as it is, I believe the Fed might have to cut rates so we can get through 2020. If you look at the sales of homes, home purchases fell in all four regions, led by a 7.9% drop in the Midwest. This is the 13th straight month of annual existing home sales declines. And we see that to prop this up once again, I don't think it's just good enough to keep the rate stable. I do believe that Trump is now going to push for cutting the rates. And I believe he's going to start tweeting this out. And actually, this is the perfect time to do it, because remember, we talked about this many times before. The best time for housing is the spring and summer. Everyone's coming off of school. The weather's getting better. The flowers come out. It's great for moving. And people want to be in their homes before school starts once again. And a lot of people move during this time because it's a lot easier to move during the summer than it is in the winter when you have snow, ice, and other things like that. If he sees what's happening, which I believe he does, and his people around him sees what's happening, he's going to push the Fed to start cutting rates. And I believe they're going to have to do this within this springtime period. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, something very interesting. We know there's many different individuals that are running for president. We know that Elizabeth Warren, who is not really a Native American at all, she kind of lied about the whole thing, got into law school by saying that she was a Native American. She took a DNA test, and she's not a Native American. But what's very interesting is that she is proposing a $640 billion student debt forgiveness, free college. Now, think about what she's doing. Of course, she's doing this to get elected. I mean, that's just completely obvious. Is she ever going to get this done? Most likely not. Because, first of all, she's not going to be president. But even if she was, there's no way that this was going to happen. The problem with all of this is that we need to go to the root of the problem. This is not a fix. This is a ploy to get elected. Yeah, people will feel great, but guess what? It's almost like the minimum wage raise. It doesn't fix anything. It sounds great until you experience it and you say, yeah, this did not help. Because here I am once again, a couple years later, back to where we started. She tweeted out the following. Student loan debt is crushing millions of families. That's why I'm calling for something truly transformational. Universal free college and the cancellation of debt for more than 95% of Americans with student loan debt. Read all about it here. Okay, first of all, who's paying for all this? We know that the government cannot pay any more of this. The taxpayers right now can't pay for any of this because there is just too much debt. So someone's going to have to pay for this. And guess what? It will be all the taxpayers in the country. Will this fix anything? No, you're just shifting the problem. That's all you're doing. What needs to be done is we need to go to the root of the problem. Why do we need student loans to get into college? Why do we need loans to purchase a house, a car, or even finance washers and dryers? I mean, in the past, people used to use cash to pay for these things. I mean, I was in a phone store the other day, and I saw you can finance the charger for the phone, which is just unbelievable. The problem that we're having today is that the dollar is continually losing value. And if it continually loses value, guess what? You're never going to fix the problem. You're going to need more and more loans. That's why we need to go back to the root of the problem. I mean, look at Social Security, for instance. This is not the government's money. Everyone that works contributes to Social Security. It's a retirement plan that you are putting money into the system. And then when you retire, you get this money back. It's like a forced retirement plan. It's like if you started a private one, it's the same type of thing. The government has been borrowing or taking the money out of the Social Security accounts and using it for other things. And now we find out that the trustees report came out and Social Security fund will go negative in 2020. So what does this mean? Well, the Social Security's program cost will exceed its income in 2020 for the first time since 1982. The system is buckling under the weight. It cannot continue on in this fashion. It's completely impossible. But those individuals that don't want to let this system go, they're pushing back. Remember, Trump would like to have Herman Cain and Stephen Moore nominated and put into the Fed. We see already that there are Republicans out there that do not want Herman Cain. Remember, these individuals, they take their instruction from the central bank. The bad individuals within the central bank. I'm not talking about the good people there. It's split. Trump is bringing in people to basically restructure the entire system. There's still bad people, just like within government, there was a deep state and Trump came in and he's restructuring the government. It's the same thing with the central bank. And we see that Herman Cain, he does not have a chance. I mean, Trump tweeted out the following: "My friend Herman Cain, a truly wonderful man, has asked me not to nominate him for a seat on the Federal Reserve Board. I will respect his wishes. Herman is a great American who truly loves our country." So now we need to look at who is not voting for him. And we see that Senator Kevin Cramer, he said he will not vote for Cain. Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Cory Gardner. Now, Lisa Murkowski is controlled by Feinstein. Romney, well, he's completely against Trump. And you can see how they are stopping him. They know what he's up to. They know that restructuring is coming. And just because we don't get Herman Cain or Stephen Moore, well, Stephen Moore, he's still in the running. Even though we don't get these individuals, he will bring up other individuals, and he will get the people he needs in the Federal Reserve to restructure it. Now, Nobel laureate Steven Chu came out and he said a couple of things about this economy. He said the world economy is based on ever-increasing population, a scheme that economists don't talk about and the governments won't face, a scheme that makes sustainability impossible and that is likely to eventually fail. He said the world needs a new model of how to generate a rising standard of living that's not dependent on a pyramid scheme. Now, that's very interesting that he said a pyramid scheme. Now, he really didn't specify what that new model was going to look like, but he offers a solution to the population growth that we rely on right now. He said increased economic prosperity in all economic models supported by governments and global competitors are based on having more young people, workers, than older people. Two schemes come to mind. One is the pyramid scheme. The other is a Ponzi scheme. I'm not going to explain them, but you can look them up and you can find out what they are. He said, depending on a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, there's no such thing as sustainability. There are at least two problems with it. Depending on a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, there's no such thing as sustainability. As standards of living increase, population growth declines. So if the economy succeeds in raising standards of living, it undermines itself. The economists know this, but they don't really talk about it in the open. And there's really no discussion in government. Every government says you have to have an increase in population, whether you do it through immigrants or the home population. So this is a problem. Now think about what is happening right now. What was the deep state and the central bankers trying to do throughout Europe and in the United States? They were trying to bring illegals in. Why? Because they needed to increase the population. Yes, this is one agenda. They had many agendas associated with this because it helps their system. The same thing in Europe. They wanted all these countries, the European countries, to accept immigrants. Not just one country, the whole bloc. Why? Because their system would not be able to continue without this. This is the problem with the central bank system. Now, if Clinton came into office, this would be a little bit different because they would then depend on an event. This event would bring us to war. War would decrease the population. And what the central bankers could do is they could reset the system and start it all over again. And what would you have if you have a decrease in population with war and you reset the system? You have population growth. This is what their system needs. So without Clinton, they have to depend on the illegals coming into the country to keep the system operational. And I believe they were bringing the illegals in to all over the place until they had the event move forward. Now they don't have that event. And what is Trump doing? So Trump is building a wall which stops the flow of illegals. Guess who doesn't like this? Well, the deep state, because there's drug trafficking, human trafficking. They can't get their votes. The central bankers can't increase the population. So Trump is hitting them from all sides. Look at the nations in Europe. they're putting up barriers. They don't want the population to grow. They're stopping the central bank. Like I said before, the central bank is completely exposed right now. No event, no population growth, which means their system, while everyone's staring at them, comes crashing down. And there's nothing they can do about it at this time. And Trump and many other leaders, they are pushing for a completely new system, completely separate and apart from the private Western central bank system. That system is going to go away. So think about what they're doing. They're in the Middle East. The central bankers couldn't expand the petrodollar in the Middle East. Now it's contracting. Trump is putting up the wall, stopping the illegals coming to the country. There's no population growth. Many of the countries in the European bloc, they are stopping the illegals from coming into the country. Soros wanted to bring individuals from Africa into Europe. Why? To push population growth, to keep this system alive, because they know they're exposed. Trump and many other individuals around the world who are leaders of countries, they are putting the brakes on the private Western central bank system. And they're making sure that it is completely closed off. So when it goes down, they can't do anything about it. And they're completely exposed because they don't have the event. They don't have the population growth. They have nothing. The plan is coming together. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.